What's good? It's your boy Fanon. Okay, there's one thing that you can expect from the WBA, and that is for them to play ball with Anthony Joshua. Good job, Eddie Hearn. Like I said, I had faith in Eddie Hearn when Deontay Wilder said that he was going to sign that contract as is and ship it over to him. As long as they let him know what the date and the venue was, that they were going to sign, he was going to sign the contract and they'd have it by Friday, right? Sign it on Monday, put it in the mail on Tuesday. It goes to the UK. It gets there Friday or before. I said in a meme, go look at my last video, with a picture of Deontay Wilder. What's the excuse, Eddie? And then Eddie, give me a day. I'll come up with one. And that's what happened. Boom. Next day, best excuse. But an excuse that was sitting there ready and waiting. I got to tell you, these guys are highly skilled duck artists, man. Highly skilled. I mean, they've thought this thing out. They have this working like clockwork. Now, before I get into the specifics of it, which I'll tell you the highlight is that Anthony Joshua has now been ordered to fight Alexander Povetkin, and he has to sign the contract within 24 hours. So that's the excuse. Now the WBA is forcing him within 24 hours to sign Alexander Povetkin. The WBA is the one that's saying he has to fight Alexander Povetkin. They have now taken off the table the WBA, not Anthony Joshua, not Deontay Wilder, but the WBA has taken Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder off the table. How convenient. The day after Deontay Wilder says that they'll have a signed contract by Friday. They give a Wednesday deadline. You can't make this stuff up, man. And it was obvious that it was coming. What's it going to be tomorrow, man? When it came, I said it. It's going to be something tomorrow. It's going to be something tomorrow. Now, they said they would get it. I also said, just to be clear, in the title, I said, hey, the contract will be there on Friday, excuse due on Saturday. Well, I think that's right, too, because if they sign it and send it and it gets there Friday, they're not going to countersign it because Eddie Hearn will say, well, you heard what happened. We had to sign for Alexander Povetkin on Wednesday. Sorry, we can't do it. Back to the drawing board. And that means we're going to be in September and just, hey, let's get back to it on Friday. Let's get back to it on February. Let's get back to it in February. All right. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if they still try to if they still try to get Deontay Wilder to sign for the bout with no date on it and no venue on it, just to lock him into a price. And it'll happen whenever it happens. But whenever it happens, you gotta take the fight for 12.5. You got it for 12.5 million. Anyway, that is speculation, that part. But thank you guys who are subscribers to checking out the channel. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can be notified when we drop videos. Also, thank you to everybody, and I mean this. I'm saying this every video, but I really do mean thank you very, very much for everybody that donates in Super Chat and Patreon and Venmo. And thank you to all the channels that regularly attend the live stream and the people that attend the live stream, like my man Sal Gutierrez and the such Gregory Wyatt. All the people in the Wrench gang, definitely appreciate you guys for showing up. I'm going to try to mention some every video when I can, because I do want to let you know that I really, really, really appreciate you, man. Like my man, Narco Champion TV El Bruto, my man down there in Puerto Rico. Also Dark Truth, man. Thank you out there in the UK. So give a couple of those shout outs, man, because people that are regularly in the chat. Let me go through this news, man, and we'll talk about it. Anthony Joshua could be made to wait for a Deontay Wilder fight after the WBA ordered him to sign a mandatory title defense against Alexander Povetkin within 24 hours. The WBC champion Wilder has yet to return a contract for a massive unification fight for Joshua for all the world heavyweight belts. And the WBA have grown impatient with the drawn-out negotiations ordering the British star to instead fulfill his title obligations to Povetkin. The WBA president, Gilberto Mendoza, had granted Joshua an extra month to continue talks for the fight with Wilder, but with a deal yet to be agreed, he has called on AJ to finalize the bout with mandatory challenger Povetkin. Now, there's a little bit of a contradiction in this quote and what this article says, and I'll point that out because I think it's important. Gilberto Ramirez said, today the WBA requested an answer from Anthony Joshua's team regarding his fight with mandatory challenger Alexander Povetkin. The WBA have allowed over a month extension to negotiations with Povetkin and also ongoing discussions with Wilder. It appears the Wilder team have not returned the contract for the fight. Therefore, we are requesting a date for the Joshua versus Povetkin fight with immediate effect. Now, they say here that they extended it for the negotiations between the Povetkin and Joshua. And I do believe that that is what the extension was for. I don't believe that the WBA, and this is my opinion, I don't think the WBA extended that negotiation for Povetkin because of Wilder. I think that was the negotiation between Povetkin and and Joshua is the reason they extended it. Because if you remember, Rubinsky and those guys are still negotiating about where the fight was going to take place. And they might push the dang thing to a purse bid. Now, that's what I'm hoping comes out of this, because I never believed, like I said earlier in the video, I never believed that Anthony Joshua was going to take this Deontay Wilder fight next. And if you listen to Eddie Hearn from the time that Anthony Joshua won the belt against Klitschko, he got no intentions on Deontay Wilder fighting Anthony Joshua fighting Deontay Wilder anytime soon. And the fact that they said that, yeah, we'll sign the contract. Like I said, it's like, okay, they said they're going to sign it. Now, what's the excuse going to be next? All that did in effect is put Eddie Hearn in a situation where now they've got to come to a conclusion with Povetkin. I've never believed, and I've been consistent on it, that Eddie Hearn is serious about getting in with Wilder. And more than likely, Wilder's always been, from the matchroom boxing side of it, has always been leverage on Alexander Povetkin. Always been leverage on Alexander Povetkin. And where the fight's going to be, what the money's going to be with Alexander Povetkin, because Rubinsky is a very, very influential guy in boxing, and they can't beat Rubinsky in a purse bid. They can't do it. So they have to come up with they have to negotiate and come up with a scenario to get that fight in the UK with Povetkin that Rubinsky's happy with. And as long as they could hold out that, well, we're going to go to Wilder stuff, then, which is some garbage, then they had room to negotiate with Povetkin. But now that the WBA has ordered them to give me a date for Povetkin, now they got to come up with it. But it was never to fight Deontay Wilder. It's never been to face Deontay Wilder. Because they don't think that they can beat Deontay Wilder at this stage of their career, and maybe never. Now, you guys can say what you want to say about who ducked what. And I'm talking now to you AJ fans, because you guys obviously ain't been around very long. When you have guys like Roy Jones Jr., Teddy Atlas, you have guys like Chris Bird, you have guys like people who have been in a ring with the guy, like Joseph Parker, you've got Tyson Fury, you've got Daniel Dubois, you've got all these people saying, look, man, no, I'm going with Deontay Wilder. That tells you that everybody knows that Deontay Wilder can beat Anthony Joshua. Will he beat Anthony Joshua is one thing. Can he beat him is without a doubt. That would be Anthony Joshua getting in the ring with somebody that can concuss him. And he does, as much as you guys think he's like some X-Man superhero, the dude's head can get concussed. And when you have somebody like Deontay Wilder, somebody that throws punches from really ridiculous angles, and somebody that has one punch knockout power, you're consciousness is always in danger for 12 rounds. And you should have learned that even more so in the bout that you guys talk about as if it didn't happen. It's like some of you guys look at every minute in a fight except for when that big concussive bomb lands. Say, oh, look, he was winning. And then it's just like you just want to erase the fact that the guy ended up flat on his back, drooling, non-responsive, slumped over with his knee twisted. Those are real. Those punches land. Those punches count. You can't take the knockout out of a fight. And they know that. Eddie Hearn knows that. Barry Hearn knows that. Anthony Joshua knows that. Everybody, his trainer, Rob McCracken, knows that. And it is significantly less risk, because isn't that what Eddie referred to Deontay Wilder as? Massive risk. It's significantly less risk with Povetkin. But he was using Anthony Joshua as leverage. He was using Anthony Joshua's team. Eddie Hearn was using Deontay Wilder as leverage. Now, the WBA has now stepped in and said, look, we played long enough. Go ahead and announce this fight with Povetkin, the guy we want you to fight. And the Povetkin, come on, we know these sanctions, but we know what the WBA has done before with Anthony Joshua. This is not the first time the WBA has rode in like the cavalry, right? And I love that one, the cavalry, right? Rolled in like the cavalry to keep their golden goose safe from the marauding natives, right? The one that want to take their belt, the belt that's probably rightfully theirs because they're the better fighter. They did it before with Luis Ortiz. Luis Ortiz popped for some high blood pressure medication that could be used as a masking agent. The WBC said they did the research and they were like, okay, we think this is okay. We're going to fine him. We did our research. We're going to fine him. We'll put him back in our ratings and we're going to move on. But what did the WBA do? The WBA took him out of their ratings altogether and suspended him for multiple years. Kept him nice and safe from Anthony. Kept Anthony Joshua nice and safe from Luis Ortiz. Nice and safe from Luis Ortiz, even though it wasn't even the WBA's testing protocol that he tests positive for. He wasn't even fighting in a WBA bout. Similar to how they did, but not quite as blatant as what the WBA did with Guillermo Rigondeaux, where Guillermo Rigondeaux was fighting Vasily Lomachenko and moved. First of all, Luis Flores took a dive in a bout against Guillermo Rigondeaux. But Guillermo and thank you, Jim Lampley, for all that crying. And instead of taking another rematch against Luis Flores, Guillermo Rigondeaux moves up 2 weight classes and faces Vasily Lomachenko, and the WBC puts in a bout. He was a massive underdog again. Said, if you lose your belt. I've never even heard of somebody fighting for defending a 122-pound belt at 130-pound weight limit. It's just impossible. It's just wrong as rain. But that's how the WBA rolls from time to time, man. That's how they roll time for time. The WBC has their little quirks too. WBO as well. IBF a little bit less so, but clearly they do as well. But this is what this is. This is what it's about. In my opinion, having observed this is what this was all about. And now the only interesting thing for me out of this is, where's the fight? Is the fight between Alexander Povetkin, a 3-time drug cheat, and Anthony Joshua, is it going to go to purse bid? Does Rubinsky, because of this little game that Eddie Hearn was playing, does Rubinsky say, you know what, we'll just go to purse bid? We couldn't come to a conclusion. We're going to go to purse bid. That's what I hope. I hope Rubinsky goes to purse bid. Says, now you're in a rock and a hard place, dude. Now you're in a rock and a hard place because the WBA has ordered you to fight me. You can't get out of the way. You can't delay with these fake negotiations you're going through with Deontay Wilder, because that's what they've been the whole time. And the WBA has called the end to their fake negotiations with Deontay Wilder. Now, it might have been to help Eddie Hearn. I mean, help. I don't think it's just purely to help Anthony Joshua. I also think it's to do what one of their big major power brokers want in Alexander in Rubinsky, which is for Joshua to fight Povetkin. And now Eddie Hearn he's in a rock and a hard place from what I can see. Because they could have got this negotiation out of the way. And again, I don't think I've never thought any of these negotiations with Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua have been real on the part of Matchroom Boxing. When you pass up a $50 million, when you make your boxer pass up $50 million guaranteed bout, guaranteed purse, to come to the United States, fight on U.S. pay-per-view in a bout that can be well over $100 million, and you make him pass up on that, you know you don't want the fight. And now the WBA doesn't order for a decision by Deontay Wilder by Wednesday, or say that they want to know who they're going to fight. No, they said that's it. You're fighting Povetkin. And we are requesting a date for the Joshua versus Povetkin fight with immediate effect. We want to know when you're fighting Povetkin. The WBA has taken Deontay Wilder off the table completely. And that is not necessarily a good thing for Eddie Hearn. I mean, it's kind of looks to me like the better between two, what is it called? The lesser of two evils. Because in one situation, you can have control, you can make the money, but your boxer's probably going to walk up out of there ruined, and you could lose everything. Or do you go into a situation where you could get, they might have to fix the fight, but you can see that there's a possibility that the guy actually has the advantage to win against Povetkin. So anyway, it is what it is, but you knew what this was going to be. And with that, I'm out. Peace.